everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Nikki, and today's video I am doing a Sunday reset. I'm feeling kind of excited for this. I honestly don't want to do all of it. It feels a little bit overwhelming right now, but I've got a lot of ingredients that I need to use up, and I know that I'll be so happy setting myself up for success this week by prepping those ingredients and having them ready for me to create quick and easy meals with them. If you enjoyed this video or find it helpful, please go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. I will be sharing a bunch of different ingredients that I prep to have ready in the fridge or the freezer for the week. I don't really have success with meal prep, but specifically individual ingredients. I have a lot more success sticking to my healthier habits. I find that it's easier to just quickly build meals off of those ingredients that are prepped because I change my mind for what I have the taste for a lot, and I just do better when it's ingredient prep versus meal prep. But anyway, I'm going to be sharing the different ingredients I'm making today. I also pick a cleaning or organizing task to tackle with these Sunday resets. I try not to overwhelm myself and pick like 1 to 2 things that I've had in the back of my mind that I need to get done, and I just quickly get those done, usually while I'm cooking some other things. If there's something in the oven or if I'm making waffles or something, it's nice to kind of multitask, and that's also what I do the entire time I'm prepping these ingredients. So I'm gonna write out my list on the whiteboard and then lay out all of the ingredients, the different kitchen utensils and things like that that I need. So for example, today I'm going to be making protein pancakes, and I'm going to use my griddle for that. So I'm gonna make sure to just grab all that stuff out just so it's ready. And when it's in front of me, I can kind of see what I need to tackle. And then as I finish each thing and it becomes less and less, it also feels really good. So I'll have the recipes and points and information for the different things that I'm making today, but I'm just gonna go ahead and get started prepping some different items. And hopefully this gives you a little bit of motivation, maybe some inspiration to set yourself up for success as well. Maybe tackle something that you've been putting off. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. The first thing that I always do is write out the list of what I'm making on my whiteboard. So my plan for today is making some bacon, marinating chicken breasts that I have in the fridge. I want to roast some green beans with sesame oil and soy sauce. I'm making some protein pancakes, some chicken salad for Adam to bring to work, creamy containers that I can have ready in the freezer, some chicken sausage crumbles, a big salad, and then I plan to organize some of the kitchen cabinets. Once I've got my list written out, I'm able to just reference that to remember the things that I have planned for today. So I'm just making little piles on my island of the ingredients and things I'll need. I usually just put everything out on the counter and then I kind of push it to the side as I go through each thing, but this just helps me to see all that I have left to do, to not forget anything, and then also to just have a little extra organization that makes things go quicker. First thing I did was preheat the oven to 375, and then I had 2 packs of center cut bacon, so I just laid those out on baking sheets that had foil on them. I've always heard it's best to just pop the bacon in while the oven is preheating, so I put those in the oven and set a timer, and then I'm getting my green beans ready. I've got another baking sheet lined with foil that I sprayed with some nonstick olive oil spray. Then I'm chopping up a red bell pepper. I've also got some fresh green beans. These are just French style, and I'm just cutting off the ends and then cutting them into halves so they're a little bit smaller of pieces. I plan to use these green beans with rice bowls and just as a side dish with quick meals like pot stickers and chicken, things like that. So once they're on the baking sheet, I add a little toasted sesame oil, and this adds so much good flavor to them. I also add some onion powder, soy sauce, and garlic salt, and I just toss it around to make sure it gets nice and coated with my hands. Then I also just pop this in the oven to let them start roasting. Then the bacon's already ready to be flipped, so usually I just use a fork and flip the pieces over and pop it back in the oven. I don't like to cook it too much because I end up reheating it when I use it throughout the week. I just keep it stored in an airtight container in the fridge. Next up, I'm making some eggs for breakfast sandwiches. So I've got my egg molds here that I spray with the nonstick olive oil spray. Then into each one, I just crack an egg. Then I add some salt and pepper, as well as a little bit of the Kinder's buttery garlic and herb seasoning. I like to break the yolk before I put them in the oven, so I usually just take a fork and then kind of scramble them up a little bit. And this is the quick version of making eggs for breakfast sandwiches. Sometimes I'll add in some extra vegetables or cottage cheese, but I was just feeling the seasoning, salt, and pepper today. While those are in the oven, I get started with the chicken sausage crumbles. So I have 2 pounds of ground chicken that I'm using to make this today. And although these are great for a breakfast option, I also really like to use them with like pasta sauce and pizza. But once it's pretty much cooked, I just take my meat masher and break it down into smaller pieces. I strain out the liquid and then add some water. Then for seasonings, I add some onion powder, some garlic salt, some sage and thyme, and then I also added a little bit of that buttery garlic and herb seasoning. I've been using it for everything lately and it is so good. I let that simmer on low heat for a couple more minutes and then I set it aside to cool off. Next, I just wanted to get my chicken marinating, and I'm not going to be cooking this today, but I just wanted to get it in the fridge because I like to let it sit overnight and really soak up the flavors. I've got 5 pounds of boneless chicken breast that I'm using today, so I've got 2 different seasoning packets. I just dump each packet into its separate gallon bag. Today I'm doing Parmesan garlic and Brazilian steakhouse. I add a splash of olive oil to each bag and then some water, and I just kind of mix it around with my hand to combine it. Then I just use some kitchen scissors and chop the chicken breast up into smaller pieces, and then you can see I'm just kind of mashing it around with my hands to make sure that it gets nice and coated in the bag. I just pop it in the fridge like this, and then I will cook it up on my griddle or in a pan tomorrow. Then, speaking of my griddle, I have it heating up right now so that I can start making these protein pancakes. I'm making chocolate chip protein pancakes today, and I'm just using this mix from Aldi, so I dump the entire box into a big bowl. I mix in 2 eggs, a cup of fat-free milk, and then about 1.5 cups of water. I just continue adding it until it gets to the consistency that I want. But once that's nice and combined, I've got my griddle that I spray with some nonstick spray, and then I'm just using this scoop to equally scoop out pancakes. And as much as I enjoy the waffles, I find that the pancakes are so much easier to make. They really cook up a lot quicker. Once they start kind of bubbling up in the center and you can kind of see the sides and edges start to brown, then you know to flip them. But it really only takes a few minutes on each side, and then I just stack them onto a plate to let them cool off. And I didn't know exactly how many pancakes I would get today. Usually I end up making them first and then I create a recipe in the Weight Watchers app. And then I just divide that recipe by the amount of servings or pancakes that I actually got, which I ended up getting about 28 today. Moving on to the creamies that I'm making, I just pour the protein shakes into each container and I'm using the Elevation Aldi brand. I had 1 vanilla, the rest were chocolate. And then that first one is actually a Quest salted caramel protein shake. I wanted to try out with a new salted caramel pudding powder that I found today. I whisked the pudding powder into the protein shake and I also added just a little splash of vanilla zero sugar syrup. Then in the 2 middle containers, I've got the chocolate protein shake and I added in 1/4 of the package of butterscotch pudding mix. It's also sugar-free, so it's 1 point for the serving and the protein shakes are 3 points. In the last 2, I added a scoop of mint protein powder and then I just whisked that together with the protein shake. Next up, I'm just prepping a big salad that I can have with my dinners or lunches. I'm not a huge fan of salads, so when I crave them, I try to take advantage of it. I find it's much more convenient when I actually have everything just chopped up in the fridge in a container like this. It holds up pretty nicely, and I'm just much more likely to make a meal with a salad or make a side salad with my dinner when it's actually just there and ready. So I just chop everything up and put it in a nice big airtight container. I've got some romaine lettuce, some spinach leaves, then I'm just chopping up a cucumber, and I like to just leave the skin on and chop it into quarters. I've also got some grape tomatoes, so I'm just cutting those in half and tossing them into the salad. I also chop up some sweet peppers, and these are nice because they're actually seedless, so I just quickly dice those up and mix those in as well. And then I just pop the lid on this and store it in the fridge in the garage because that's where I have more room for it. But it stays nice and fresh, and then I use it up within the next few days. Then I move on to chopping the veggies for the chicken salad that I'm making for Adam to bring to lunch. In a big bowl, I add 1 pound of shredded rotisserie chicken breast, and this one I specifically got from Aldi, so it's pretty seasoned and I don't really add any other seasonings to it because of that. So just keep that in mind if you're using plain chicken breast, which sometimes I do that, but for convenience today I just used the pre-shredded one. But I mixed in a diced red onion, some sweet red peppers, and then I've got red grapes that I actually didn't cut up. I just put them in whole because they were a little bit on the smaller side. I just toss everything together to get it a little bit combined, and then I add in some non-fat plain Greek yogurt and some light mayo. And I just mix that together until it's combined and pop it in an airtight container in the fridge. Now that the egg molds are done in the oven and they've cooled, I can start putting together the breakfast sandwiches. I prefer to store mine in the fridge and Adam likes to keep his in the freezer, but for both of them, I just wrap them in a little foil that I get from Sam's Club. And I'm using 3 different proteins today, so I've got the multigrain English muffins that are 2 points each. Then each sandwich gets a slice of light Swiss cheese, one of those eggs. Then the first round got turkey sausage patties that were just in the freezer and they're 2 points each. These next 4 sandwiches are getting some of that bacon that I cooked earlier, so it's 2 slices of center cut bacon, also for 2 points. And then the last 4 are getting Crocus ham, so each sandwich gets 2 slices of Crocus ham for 1 point on Weight Watchers. And after I wrap them up, I just use a Sharpie to write on the foil whatever type it is, so an H for ham, an S for sausage, and then I just pop those in the fridge and the freezer. And they heat up really well if you just wrap them in a paper towel and pop them in the microwave. You can also throw them in the air fryer, but both of us usually just microwave them. Then at this point, everything is done cooking, so once it's cooled, I pack everything up in airtight containers. First up, I've got these pancakes, which came out to 2 points total on Weight Watchers. These are my favorite as a quick pre-workout snack. Then I'll cook up this chicken breast tomorrow once it's done marinating, but I just track this as 0 points and use it for bowls, wraps, sandwiches, and pasta. Usually when I make a batch of chicken salad with a pound of chicken, I get about 5 servings out of it. And each serving is only 1 point on Weight Watchers. Adam loves to bring this to work with high fiber tortillas or with bread and makes sandwiches or wraps with it. Then with the sesame oil, the roasted green beans technically come out as a point each serving, and I get about 6 servings from this batch. And this is going to be a perfect ingredient for rice bowls or even a quick batch of sesame noodles. Then I've got these chicken sausage crumbles that I'll use for breakfast bowls or with scrambled eggs, but also in pasta or on pizza or calzones. I've got my basic pre-made salad, which is 0 points on Weight Watchers, and like I mentioned, will be great with dinner or even as a base for like a big lunch salad. And then all these breakfast sandwiches came out to 5 to 6 points depending on which protein they have on them. But these are so convenient to have ready in the morning and especially for Adam to bring to work. Now for my organizing task, the other day I randomly decided to open up this cabinet above my fridge and realized it's just been completely empty and I just completely forgot that it was there for storage when we moved in. And I feel like this is the perfect spot for different things that I don't want to get rid of. I use maybe a couple times a year in the kitchen, but I just want a space for them that's kind of out of the way. So I went through my other cabinets and looked for things that I don't use as often, and it helped me to declutter them so much and make room for some other things. And I actually put everything up here that I thought I wanted, and then I went back and found even more, and so I'm so happy that I found this little extra space. And this was the cabinet that I took a lot of that stuff from. It was just kind of a bunch of random things mixed up, but I want it to be more for my containers for storage. The cabinets under it are more for like drinks and coffee and stuff like that, but there was some mixed in all over, so I just kind of got this nice and organized. I got my energy drink packets for the gym all in one cup, and just threw away some extra packaging that was taking up space in there, and now you can see I've got so much extra space. I want to get some new airtight containers, especially for these resets, and that's what I plan to use that middle shelf for. It's nice and easily accessible, and this is just much more organized than it was before. And the dogs were so good while I was doing this, so I promised them some food. You guys so good. Are you hungry? Okay. Okay. There you go. Okay, that wraps up everything that I'm doing for my Sunday reset today. It was a big chunk of things that I wanted to accomplish today, but I'm feeling really good that I did, and my fridge is packed with ingredients that are actually prepped now, which gets me to actually use the produce and proteins that I buy when I go grocery shopping and just keep my meals high in protein and fiber. So it makes it just that much easier for me to stay on track. And of course I do enjoy takeout and different things like that in moderation, but again, having these staples prepped just really helps me throughout the week, especially when it gets busier. easier. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful and maybe got some motivation to do some things around your house as well and set yourself up this week. It doesn't have to be a long list of things that you get done when you do this ingredient prep. You could do 1 to 2 things at a time, and even that little bit can make such a difference. Sometimes I'll even just prep a quick veggie mix, or if I'm making a dinner where we're having chicken burgers or something, I'll double or triple the batch just so that I have the stuff prepped in the fridge later. So sometimes I don't do the full reset all at once. I'm just doing 1 to 2 ingredients at a time, but you just need to find what works best for you to help you stay on track. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.